Imagine your neighborhood had 27 families. One family makes amazing cheese, another builds luxury cars, one grows excellent olives, another has world class football players. Now imagine all of them decided instead of constantly arguing, fighting wars, and charging each other money to trade, why don't we just become one giant WhatsApp group? That's basically the story of the European Union. Well, with a lot more paperwork. In this video, we learn all about the European Union. Let's begin. Before the European Union existed, Europe was like that friend group that keeps fighting every few years. In the first half of the 20th century alone, Europe gave the world the First World War and the Second World War. And together, these wars killed tens of millions of people and devastated the continent. After World War II, European leaders looked around and thought, maybe constantly invading each other isn't a great long term strategy. They needed a way to make wars so expensive and inconvenient that countries would never want to fight again. And surprisingly, the solution they came up with was coal and steel. In 1951, six countries France, West Germany, Italy, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg created the European Coal and Steel Community. The idea was simple: coal and steel were essential for making weapons. If countries shared control over these industries, secretly preparing for war would become much harder. Think of it as two rival students sharing the same exam notes. It's difficult to plot against each other when you're using the same notebook. And surprisingly, it worked. The cooperation worked so well that these countries wanted more. In 1957, they signed the Treaty of Rome, which created the European Economic Community. Its goal was to make trade easier: no tariffs, fewer barriers, and more business. Over the next decades, more countries joined. The club grew from 6 members to 27. Then, in 1993, the modern European Union was officially born through the Maastricht Treaty, and suddenly, Europe wasn't just an economic club anymore. It was becoming a political and economic giant. The easiest way to understand the EU is this: it's not a country. It's not exactly an international organization either. It's somewhere in between. Think of it as a housing society. Every resident owns their own apartment, but everyone agrees on common rules for security, maintenance, and shared facilities. Similarly, Germany remains Germany, France remains France, Italy remains Italy, but together they cooperate on many issues. The EU makes common rules on trade, competition, environment, consumer protection, agriculture, and digital regulations. Today, the EU represents around 450 million people. That's more than the population of the United States. The EU's biggest achievement is called the single market. It essentially means no customs checks, easy movement of goods, easy movement of workers, and easier business regulations for all the member countries of the EU. For example, a company in Spain can sell products in Germany much more easily. A student from Poland can study in France. An engineer from Italy can work in the Netherlands. The result: more trade, more jobs, and more investment. This is one reason the EU became one of the world's largest economic blocs. Many EU countries also share the same currency, which is the euro. Instead of the French francs, the German marks, or the Italian lira, many countries now use the euro. It's like several roommates agreeing to keep all expenses in one shared wallet. Its benefits are easier travel, easier trade, fewer currency exchange costs, but not everyone joined. Countries like Poland and Hungary still use their own currencies. The EU and the Eurozone are not exactly the same thing. Not everyone was happy with the EU. Many people in the United Kingdom felt that Brussels, the EU's headquarters, had too much influence over British laws. In 2016, Britain held a referendum. The question: should the UK leave the EU? The result shocked the world. Leave won. This event became known as the Brexit. and years of negotiations after, the UK officially left the EU in 2020. Brexit remains one of the most significant political events in modern Europe. Now, here's something that matters a lot to us in India. After nearly 2 decades of talks, India and EU finally reached a breakthrough in 2026. The agreement is expected to create one of the largest free trade zones in the world, and the deal got a rather dramatic nickname, the mother of all deals. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen used that phrase after the agreement was concluded. Why such a grand title? Because together, India and the EU represent roughly 2 billion people, about one quarter of global GDP, and nearly one third of global trade. The agreement aims to reduce tariffs, improve market access, strengthen manufacturing cooperation, and make it easier for businesses on both sides to operate. The EU expects its exports to India to potentially double by 2032. There's also a geopolitical angle. As relations with China become more complicated and global trade faces uncertainty from tariffs and geopolitical tensions, India and Europe increasingly see each other as reliable long term partners. So today, the India EU relationship isn't just about buying and selling goods. It's about shaping the future of global economy together. The EU isn't just about trade anymore. Today, it's heavily involved in major global issues. After the Russian invasion of Ukraine, EU countries imposed sanctions on Russia and provided economic, military, and humanitarian support to Ukraine. The EU is trying to reduce dependence on Chinese supply chains while protecting European industries. While the US produces many tech giants and China builds powerful digital platforms, the EU has become famous for regulating them. Many global tech companies must follow EU privacy and digital competition rules. The EU is one of the strongest supporters of green energy and carbon reduction policies. In short, the EU has become one of the world's most influential rulemakers. Of course, not everyone loves it. Critics argue that the EU has too much bureaucracy, too many regulations, slow decision making, and reduced national sovereignty. On the other hand, supporters respond that it prevents conflict, strengthens economies, increases global influence, makes Europe more competitive. So the debate continues. The European Union began with a simple goal: make war impossible. What started as a small coal and steel partnership evolved into one of the most powerful economic and political blocs on earth. And despite its challenges, it remains one of history's most ambitious experiments in international cooperation. Because after centuries of fighting, Europe decided to try something radical: working together. And somehow, the Coal Club became a superpower. If you watched till here and learned something new today, clap for yourself. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more such videos on international relations concepts.